Hello, everyone, and welcome to the RotoWire Fantasy Basketball Podcast brought to you by DraftKings. I am Mike Barner. He is Kirien Sprecher, and we come to you every Wednesday for information that you need to win your fantasy basketball leagues. Kirien, how are you today?
I'm doing great. Fantasy basketball drafts are in full swing, so let's get into these busts.
That's right. Today's show, we're only talking about the guys to avoid, with the caveat, we are not allowed to talk about Joel Embiid and Paul George because all you regular listeners know that they are forever on our do not draft list. So, Kirien, let's go first with your player that you will not draft this season.
All right, so based on our pre-show conversation, this one's going to hit home a little hard for you, Mike. But my first guy on this list is DeMar DeRozan. His ADP is close to the 50s right now, as you know very well. That's where he's getting auto-picked from a lot of people. DeRozan has been an incredible fantasy option in his career, right? And he's been an insanely safe one, too, because he's been able to play a ton of games and play heavy minutes every night. He's made at least 74 regular season appearances in 4 straight campaigns, which after 30 years of age, that's pretty impressive. And he's playing at least 36 minutes in a night in each year. However, entering his age 36 season, I have major concerns about those streaks continuing. The first being, I don't think the Kings are going to be very good this year. We have the De'Aaron Fox trade, Zach LaVine, Domantas Sabonis, DeMar DeRozan. It's kind of like the Bulls West, from a couple of years ago. But the Keegan Murray injury is going to be super hard. That's going to make DeRozan have to play power forward instead of the 3. That's going to be really taxing on his body playing against bigger guys as he gets older. And you may say like, oh, well, on this team, he's going to get a ton of shots. But no matter who DeRozan has played with, he's always been the same guy. He's been very consistent in that role, 15, 20 shots, averaging mid-20s, 4 boards, 5 boards, a couple assists, and a steal per game. But that's not going to be good enough when you're playing on a bad team that is playing in a stacked conference. I think the Kings are going to fall down the rankings quickly, and I think DeMar is going to be the first guy that is, going to seed minutes when they want to get, these younger guys, Keon Ellis, some of these other guys, Nick Clifford, their rookie power forward, when they want to get those guys minutes. The second reason I'm down on DeRozan is because he started to decline last year. I said he still played heavy minutes and still appeared in games, but both of those started to trend down and his efficiency dropped. He made a handful more threes over the entire season than he had in previous years, but there wasn't a big enough boost in his 3-point makes to make up for his drop in efficiency. If he sees another drop in efficiency, it's going to be very difficult for him to even produce top 75 value as opposed to the top 50 value he has been in previous years.
I couldn't agree with you more. The problem with DeRozan is he's basically points with very few rebounds and very few assists. He's going to average around 20, 22 points a game. Is he that much different in terms of points, rebounds, and assists than, say, Norm Powell, who you can get 50-some picks later and who will actually give you 3-pointers too? I don't think he is. You were hinting at our show conversation. I'm going to out myself here. Embarrassing, pitiful move by myself. I got invited to play in the 30 Deep League this year. So for those of you who don't know, it's an analyst league consisting of 30 teams from analysts all across the fantasy basketball landscape. I took Luka Doncic with my first pick. It's very long, time in between picks because it's 30 teams. By the time it got back to me, there was a couple people still at the pick. I thought I had some time to take the dog for a walk. Turns out they picked right away. By the time I got back, I got auto-picked DeMar DeRozan with my second-round pick. Embarrassing, pitiful. Almost felt like I should give my spot up to somebody else because that's pathetic. But at any rate, yes, I'll take Norm Powell around pick 100 as opposed to DeRozan around pick 50-something. What about you, Kirien?
Yeah, absolutely. Like you said, there are guys that can get you buckets later in game, later in the draft. Shaedon Sharpe is another example of that. Like Shaedon Sharpe can score. Probably will score more points than DeRozan this year, has a higher upside in the other categories. Really what's kept DeRozan afloat is that he scores a lot of points on that super high efficiency. And if that starts to wane again, that's where he really falls down the drafts, in my opinion.
For my first bust, I'm going to go with the king himself, LeBron James, who has an ADP of 22, and that is falling. Now, he's likely out till November with that sciatica injury. He played at least 70 games at both of the last 2 seasons. Prior to that, he played 56 or fewer games in 4 of the previous 5 seasons. This is Luka Doncic's team. LeBron does not have to carry the load like he needed to in the past. He's going to turn 41 years old in December. Him and I are almost the same age. We're a couple months off. I can't barely get out of bed some days, and LeBron is not going to play 70-plus games this season. He's going to be very cautious with any sort of injury he has. His goal is to win another championship. Luka can carry the load during the season. I could see LeBron playing maybe 60 games this year. His usage rate goes down. I want no part of LeBron James. It's not in the second round, not a chance. I'm not even taking him in the third round. He's not on my board this year, Kirien.
Yeah, I've seen some people on Twitter saying like, oh, if he falls to you in like the 70s, go ahead and take him, like blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, he's just completely off my board. The idea that, oh, this injury has been going on since the summer is a good thing. That's how people are like, Shams reported that he's been dealing with this soreness for like months, and that like, it's not, it's not like he just tweaked something and all of a sudden he needs to get an MRI. It's been going on for months, and people somehow spun that into like, oh, it's just like, it's just a thing that he'll be fine. It's not a serious. No, if your knee hurts for 4 months straight, that's not good. You're not ready to play a full NBA season. That said, this is exactly why they went out and got Luka. I mean, obviously you go out and get Luka because someone says, hey, we're going to trade you Luka, and you just say yes. But like, this is Luka's team now, right? LeBron doesn't need to play 70 games. Luka and Austin Reeves can carry this team to the playoffs. And that's all you need to do, because the Western Conference, even if LeBron plays 75 games, the Lakers aren't guaranteed a top 4 seed anyways. LeBron's fully off my board. He is not going to play enough games. Even when he does play, it's going to be Luka and Austin initiating the offense. Obviously, it's LeBron. There's going to be games this season where he's on the what was that stat line of the night because he comes back and drops 40. But those play DFS if you're looking for that sort of thing. If you're playing season-long fantasy, stay far, far away from LeBron James this season. My next guy, we might as well just stick with the veterans of our childhood, because I got Jimmy Butler here. Growing up as a Bulls fan, Jimmy Butler, right kind of after the D Rose era, it was like Jimmy Butler is going to be the next superstar. He went to Miami and kind of evolved into that type of player, but I'm staying far away from Jimmy in fantasy drafts this season. Like I just said with the Lakers, the Warriors are kind of in a similar spot. Even if the Curry, Butler, Draymond, they play 75 games, they aren't guaranteed home court, right? So these teams are going to be very cautious. Jimmy Butler doesn't need to be the guy every night. This is Steph's team. I'm high on Steph in fantasy this year, but I'm not high on Jimmy. I think Jimmy goes back to a secondary role during the regular season, which he's going to be fine with. He'll have his games, but he's focused on the playoffs. And taking Jimmy Butler in the top 50 this season seems crazy to me. Regular rest days are ahead for him. He hasn't played in more than 65 games since regular season games since 2016. There's just so many, like, as a fantasy manager, maybe this is just my own personal bias, but I love setting a player in my lineup and him being there every week. Jimmy Butler is not that kind of guy. I'm staying far away from Jimmy as a top 50 player this year.
You put that perfectly. We all love Jimmy Butler, the player, but the fantasy player, not so much, especially at this stage of his career. For my next bust, I'm going to go Ja Morant, who has an ADP of 34. He's been dealing with an ankle injury, but he sounds like he's going to be ready for opening night. So that's a good thing. Still, I don't trust him. He has never played more than 67 games in a season. He's played a total of 59 games the last 2 seasons. I've said this before, and I'll say this again. I think Ja Morant is Derrick Rose 2.0. Extremely talented, extremely athletic player, but he drives to the paint too much for his size, and he's going to get hurt more often than not. So, Yes, he's got a leading role here, but no, I don't want him. I don't want him, Kirien.
Yeah, and this injury, similar to the LeBron thing, they were like week to week, and then Morant's like, I'm fine. Everybody who says I'm not going to be ready by opening night's tweaking, blah, 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 I'm going to be fine. And then like a day after that, they're like, yeah, no, he's still week to week. Well, folks, we are a week away from the regular season. So, if you're week to week and you miss another week and then you miss another week, all of a sudden you're missing real games, and that sucks for fantasy. I agree with you, Mike, and I will throw in, if you are looking for an alternative option, Ty Jerome has immense value. I know what he did in the playoffs for the Cavs last year. Yeah, not great, not wonderful, but what he did in the regular season is why he was able to have that role on such a good team for the Cavs. He's going to get tons of shots this year, especially if Morant misses time. So I think avoid Ja Morant and just take Ty Jerome with 120, pick 125.
Now, we've already given you 4 busts. We've got 4 more. But before we give those to you, let's hear a word from our good friends at DraftKings.
Listen up. Our partners at DraftKings Pick 6 have a deal you don't want to miss. New DraftKings customers, this one's for you. When you play $5 or more on your first paid Pick 6 entry, you'll get $50 in bonus picks instantly. That's right. Play $5, get $50 in bonus picks to keep building your slips and take your shot at big payouts. Just tap on the link in the description below to sign up and start playing. If you've been thinking about trying Pick 6, now's the time to get in. Just use that link to sign up, and all new DraftKings customers can play $5, get $50 in bonus picks instantly. Let's build some slips. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Help is available for problem gambling. Call 8887-897777 or visit ccpg.org in Connecticut. Must be 18 plus. Age and eligibility restrictions vary by jurisdiction. Pick 6 not available everywhere, including New York and Ontario. Void where prohibited. 1 per new customer. Bonus awarded as non-withdrawable. Pick 6 bonus picks that expire in 14 days. Ends November 3rd, 2025 at 11:59 p.m. Eastern. See full terms at pick6.draftkings.com/promos.
Thank you to DraftKings Pick 6 for sponsoring the RotoWire Fantasy Basketball Podcast. And with that, Kirien, let's get back to another bust for you for this season.
Yeah, I'd also like to thank Nick for that exceptionally fast reading of that ad.
That was fantastic.
Yeah. Sticking with the trend, a veteran forward, Brandon Ingram. Brandon Ingram is being taken inside the top 70 this year. Brandon Ingram was traded to the Raptors midway through last year. Still has not played in a regular season game for them. Has been sitting out some preseason games as well. 2 years ago, this guy, Ingram, played 64 regular season games. That's 75% of the season. That's adequate. If you're analyzing a player ahead of the season, you're like, that's fine. Maybe he had one injury where he missed a couple of weeks or two. That's fine. We can live with that. However, that's by far Ingram's most games played since his rookie campaign. So, even in a best case scenario, you're not getting a very healthy player. I shouldn't say love. I'm intrigued by what the Raptors can do. I think Scotty Barnes is a fun player. Jakob Poeltl is a very good player. Emmanuel Quickley is a fun player. Who knows what RJ Barrett is, but if RJ Barrett doesn't have to be a top 3 guy, he could be fun. Brandon Ingram is a solid scorer when he's on the court. And I love Darko Rajakovic's defensive scheme. I think the Raptors can play a lot of good defense, but I just don't trust Ingram to play enough games to be a superstar in fantasy. And even when he's on the court, I think Scotty Barnes is going to run the offense. I think Emmanuel Quickley is going to be the guy that hits threes. I think RJ Barrett's going to kind of be the bulldozer, right? And try to get to the rim and get to the free throw line. That leaves Brandon Ingram just shooting a ton of mid-range jumpers. And while that may work in the playoffs, that's not really ideal for a fantasy setup. For fantasy, we want a guy making threes. We want a guy shooting efficient shots. We want guys getting to the free throw line. Ingram can do all of those things, but when he's at his best, he's shooting, contested mid-range jumpers, which, aren't great for fantasy.
They sure have built a very long, flexible kind of team with Murray Boyles and all those guys that you already mentioned. It's an interesting team, like you said, but there's just one of the things with Ingram that you liked is he was able to give you some good assist totals on a lot of nightly basis. But I don't, like you said, I don't think he's going to have a lot of opportunities to give you assists like he did in season past. He's not going to be the DeRozan extreme in terms of rebounds and assists, but I don't know. I don't think he'll be that far off, Kirien.
No, he's finished inside the top 80. This is Ingram, the top 80 in 8 category leagues only twice, and not since 2020, 2021. Obviously, that has a lot to do with missed time, but there have been seasons where he's played 60, 65 games in that stretch. So even when he's on the court consistently, he's not an elite fantasy player. Sure, he's a solid fantasy player, but now he joins a new team where, the most talented team that he's ever been on. Even when he was on the Lakers, he was one of the top talents on that team. I just don't think he's going to be a go-to guy. I think he's going to have a secondary role on the offense, and kind of like he has to find his role on this team. So it's going to take some time for him to generate rhythm. And even when he does generate rhythm, it's not the categories that we want or the stats that we want in fantasy.
It pains me to talk about my next bust. We talked about him a little bit on the podcast last week. Josh Hart, ADP 56. Yesterday or last year was the perfect storm, and this year is the worst storm for Josh Hart. Tibbs is gone. The Knicks have a deep bench. He's dealing with a finger injury. There's just so many things working against him this year. Now he is falling. So he was 56. There's some leagues where you can get him maybe in the 70s. I still wouldn't take him that early. I just don't feel confident. I don't think he's going to start. I think Mitchell Robinson's going to start next to Karl Anthony Towns. Then you've got the Clarkson, Yabusele, Malcolm Brogdon unit. So there's a lot of talent on the bench. Last year, he played 77 games and he averaged almost 38 minutes. What if he plays with his finger injury? What if he plays 6 games, 29 minutes? This is not a high usage rate guy. It was the minutes last year that helped carry him. Any dip in usage rate, efficiency, any of that kind of stuff. And you're looking at maybe an outside the top 100 player. We rode him to some championships last year. We are avoiding him to try and win championships this year, Kirien.
Yeah, the only thing I'll add with Hart is that he also the minutes played stuff for sure, but he also was insanely productive from the field. Like he was like leading the league in shot and field goal percentage around the rim, like with all these centers. That could also take a huge dip because, it's just hard to score at the rim when you're going against NBA talent. Similar to like when you said DeMar DeRozan at pick 50, you could get Norman Powell 35 picks later. You could get Christian Brown 30, 40 picks after you can get Josh Hart. And I think they are going to finish pretty close this year. And I think Brown has a lot higher upside in the 3-point category. His efficiency has been improving from there. And without Michael Porter Jr., he's going to need more threes, or he could get more threes in Denver. My next guy, I hate to say like, injuries, but I kind of did that with Brandon Ingram earlier. Lauri Markkanen, is this finally the year that he gets traded? It feels like every offseason we say Markkanen is a bust candidate, and then people draft him and they're like, hey, you were wrong about Markkanen. He's been fantastic. And then come like February, those people aren't in the comments anymore because Markkanen hasn't played in 3 weeks. If Markkanen gets traded, say he goes to the Warriors or something, his values isn't going to be as high as it is when he's on Utah, being the lead guy when he's available for Utah. So I think a trade, an injury. I also think the Utah, what's the right word? They don't deserve this, but they should do right by Markkanen and let him go to a team. They have Ace Bailey. They have Bryce Sensabaugh. They have Taylor Hendricks. They have Cody Williams. They have Kyle Filipowski. They have plenty of these like talented forwards, 4s, 3s that should be getting minutes if you don't have a future for Markkanen. I feel like right now the Jazz are just kind of being like, well, we value kind of like the Warriors did with Kuminga, where they're like, we think Kuminga is a top 25 player in the NBA. Oh, okay, well then play him. No, but no. You know what I mean? So like Lauri Markkanen's just in a really weird spot, and we continue to draft him way higher than I think his value really should be. If you want to draft Markkanen and then trade him in a month or two when he's performing like a top 50 player, by all means. But if you want to draft Markkanen with the idea that you're going to ride him to a fantasy championship because you got him at pick 75 and, he's just too talented to drop that far, I have rough news for you. You're not going to be looking pretty come championship time.
In 6 to 8 weeks, when we're doing a sell high episode of this podcast, Markkanen could very well be on it or be the very first option. This can go one of two ways for Markkanen. Either he gets traded and he takes on a lesser role with a contending team, or he stays on the Jazz, they stink, and he doesn't play in March and April. He's not that far away from being Jeremy Grant, who we call Mr. February, because he thinks the season ends in February. Jeremy Grant doesn't play in March or April. He doesn't know the season goes that long because he's on the Trailblazers and they're never contending. Markkanen's in a very similar situation, but he's going way earlier in drafts. I couldn't agree with you more. Markkanen is not someone that I want anywhere near my fantasy basketball teams. And for my final bust, I'm going to go Jordan Poole, ADP 70. Jordan Poole is going from being one of the top scoring options on the Wizards to being the third man behind Zion and Trey Murphy, the third on the Pelicans. There's no way he maintains his usage rate of 29% from last season. Now, he has shot 43.2% or lower from the field in all but one season of his career. So he is not an efficient scorer. He is a volume scorer. So with that usage rate going, that's not good. Also, we've got DeJounte Murray probably coming back sometime around January. That's not going to be good news for Jordan Poole. If you need scoring late in your drafts, take Norman Powell. We talked about his ADP is around 98. Take Benedict Mathurin. His ADP is around 95. Don't take Jordan Poole. He's going to be a bust this season.
Yeah, and I think you could argue like, when he was on the Warriors, he was fine as the coming off the bench and being that guy. And it's like, well, there was a reason why he's not on the Warriors anymore, and it's because he didn't like that role. He has evolved past that role. He thinks he's too good for that role. You mentioned Murray coming back. I would also mention if they want stability in this rotation, they go with Jose Alvarado over Jordan Poole, right? Late in the game, if you need some defense, Jose Alvarado could be, you draft Jordan Poole in the top 70s, or I can't remember what you said his ADP was.
70. Yes.
Yeah, 70. You draft Jordan Poole in the top 70, and in the second week of the season, you're watching in the fourth quarter, and Jose Alvarado is playing the final 5 minutes of the fourth quarter, and you're going to be pulling all your hair out, or whatever hair you have left, if you're me. But yeah, and then even, maybe the Pelicans, maybe Zion gets hurt, maybe all these guys get hurt again. And then you're like, oh, well, then Poole will have huge opportunity. Then they'll lean on probably Jeremiah Fears, the rookie, right? So there's like a younger guy that has high upside, and there's a veteran guy that's the stability option. So really, Jordan Poole is just the fill-in until DeJounte Murray gets back. And with that type of role, you should not be getting drafted in the top 70.
Couldn't agree more. Now, we've got some great questions here in the chat, so we're going to go through all those here in a minute. But before we do that, let's hear a good word from our friends at Chalkboard. Cash in on your NBA picks this season with Chalkboard. Simply choose more or less on your favorite player stats to win up to 5,000 times your money. For a limited time only, new players get $20 free with no deposit required. Yes, you heard that right. $20 free just on sign-up. See why over 1 million fans have already locked in with Chalkboard to turn their sports knowledge into cold, hard cash. Whether you're locking in the perfect slip with alternate lines, using the cash out feature to take your money and run, or hammering the daily promos, today is your chance to win up to $40,000 on a single entry. Stop sitting on the sidelines and get into the game with Chalkboard Fantasy Sports, now available in 30-plus states. Download Chalkboard today and use promo code ROTONBA, that's ROTONBA, to get $20 free with no deposit required. Now, Kirien, it's almost time for our favorite podcasting segment. So this is your opportunity to call Uncle Bob and Aunt Janet. Tell your boss you are not coming into the conference call. You have bigger things to handle. So before we get to the What Was That stat lines of the week, let's do some questions here in the chat.
All righty. So P-Dub says, good morning, guys. I have the number 2 pick in my 10-team 9-cat league. I'm thinking of taking Flag with my 3rd pick. Any insight? If this is a points league, I'm all for it, P-Dub. I've said this before. I think Flag, I love Flag. I think he's going to be an incredible category player in his career. But early on, especially while Kyrie's out, I think they're going to – they did in the preseason. They had him playing point guard in the preseason. If Cooper Flag is playing point guard in the preseason, he's going to take a hit in category leagues because his field goal percentage and his turnovers are probably going to go up a little bit. He's an incredibly talented guy, but asking him to play point guard in his first year or first couple months of the NBA is a lot to ask of a guy. If this is a point league, I'm all for it. If it's a category league, I would say maybe, as long as you are aware that, the field goal percentage and the turnovers are going to be there. What do you think, Mike?
I'm going to attempt math. So let's try this here. This is a 10-team league. So you got 20 picks in the first 2 rounds. You're going to have the second pick in the 3rd round. So what's that? Pick number 22?
Yeah.
That's way too early to take Cooper Flag. I'm sorry. I like Cooper Flag. I think he's going to be a talented player, but that's too early. Now, you're not going to get him in the 4th round probably because it's going to have to come all the way back to you. So you just got to, P-Dub, we love you in the chat. We remember you from last year. If you love Cooper Flag and you want to have fun, okay. If you want to seriously try and win your league, you can't take Cooper Flag at pick 22. I'm sorry.
I totally agree with that. Even like I said, if it's a point leagues, I'm for it. He would have to have greatest possible outcome scenario for him to return value at that pick. So like Mike said, if you're just trying to have fun and you want to get him, that's probably the only option that you're going to have is take him there, but it's probably not a winning strategy there. All right, Christian Rogers said, what's up? He has his first draft tonight. What's up, Christian? Remember you from last year too. Any updated sleeper questions from Rogers? I said Ty Jerome earlier with this Ja Morant injury. I think Ty Jerome could have a huge role early on. Any sleepers for you, Mike?
Yeah, I'm intrigued by Cole Anthony. I mean, you'd have to be in a pretty deep league here. But if you're hunting for scoring, I mean, he's only got to beat Kevin Porter Jr. on this Bucks depth chart. There could be a very real situation that at some point in the season, Cole Anthony is the starting point guard for the Bucks. And they could really use his scoring. So that's enough. I wouldn't sleep on Cole Anthony too much.
Yeah, I like that call. I think the Bucks are a very good place to look for sleepers this year. I'll also just throw in AJ Green. Doc Rivers was doing an interview on ESPN with Tim Legler yesterday, and Doc Rivers basically said that AJ Green is JJ Redick. So that I don't, maybe that's just coach speak. AJ Green is a very, very good 3-point shooter. The Bucks are basically doing, 5 out, Giannis crash the rim, dish it out to great 3-point shooters. So Cole Anthony, AJ Green, maybe Gary Trent. There's going to be value there because the Bucks are probably, I would go on record saying the Bucks are probably going to lead the league in 3-point attempts this year. I think Doc Rivers is basically going to say, unless it's a Giannis dunk or a Miles Turner dunk, it's going to be a 3 this year. And that could be reap benefits in the fantasy world for sure. All right. Hook and Hoops. Would you rather have Brunson or Harden? I have a guy who really wants Brunson from me, but the only person he has on his team that I would take is Harden. Yeah, I think I'm Harden over Brunson this year. What about you, Mike?
Brunson over Harden. I just don't trust Harden. I mean, I know he's aging. He doesn't have the greatest of history. I don't know. He worries me. I'd rather take Brunson in a big role for the Knicks than the aging Harden on a Clippers team that may or may not have some problems at some point here in the season. I want Brunson. It's not even close for me. But I'm probably not the right person to ask this because I'm always against Harden. So I might not be the right person to ask this.
I think it's close. I wouldn't say Brunson for sure. I think Brunson is probably the safer option, but I think Harden has the higher upside, even though you said, Brunson has the lead role. If this Clippers team is good and Kawhi is healthy, Harden could be a top 5 guy again. I don't think Brunson has that type of upside. I think, even when Brunson is at his best, he's going to be a 10 to 15 guy. But that said, I think there's a way higher chance that Brunson finishes as a 10 to 20 guy than Harden does, if that makes any sense. So Titan season, do you guys think Denny Avdija is a good 4th round pick? This will depend on how many teams are in your league. Obviously, if there's 30 teams in your league, 4th round pick would be great. 4th round pick in
12.
Like 12.
He gave us an extra comment. It's a 12.
Oh, yeah. So I mean, I think it's similar to the Cooper Flag situation where like if you want Denny Avdija, then you have to take him there. But it's gonna be really hard for him to return value at like in a top 50 pick. What do you think, Mike?
I agree. If you're taking him that early, that case scenario, Denny Avdija in the 4th round. I just can't wrap my head around Denny Avdija being a 4th round pick. I just can't do it. I mean, he was great towards the end of last season. But again, you also got to remember it's the end of the season. The Trailblazers were missing a lot of guys. They should be a little bit better this season. Their depth is a little bit better. If you take him that early, it's best case scenario, Denny Avdia. I don't have a huge problem with it, but I wouldn't have done it.
Yeah, I would go on similar here. Shaden Sharp, I said earlier. You can get him 4 rounds after you can get Denny Avdia, and on any given night, it's gonna, those two guys could have pretty similar production. I don't think Denny's production was all just like, oh, it's end of the season, let's have him run it. I think he's a really good player and he's gonna get minutes. But yeah, best case scenario that he's gonna return value there. All right, we got Hook and Hoops had one more. I took Paul George. We had to get one mention of Paul George on the bust. I wanted to avoid him altogether, but I felt like that was low risk, high reward. Yeah, if you have an IR spot, definitely low risk. You can just throw Paul George in that spot right away and probably never move him all season. He's probably not going to be ready by opening night. I'm sorry, Hooks. One more question before we get into everybody's favorite segment. Deshaun says, should I trade Curry for LeBron redraft?
No. Deshaun, we love you.
Do you want to share how high Curry went in your 30-team league?
No, so Curry, that's a different league. Kirien and I were talking. I'm doing 3 drafts at once right now. In the industry pickup league that I'm in, it's a 12-team analyst league. I believe he went 7th. It's a 9-cat league. I believe he went 7th. Curry is a borderline first-round pick. Probably, I'd feel better taking him towards the beginning of the second round, but he's a borderline first-round pick. There is under no circumstances, even if they throw in Bronny, you don't make that trade. You cannot trade Curry for LeBron.
Yeah, way higher on Curry this year than I am on LeBron. Go back to my Jimmy Butler comments. This is still Curry's team. He's going to be that one that has to energize him every night with big time threes. I'm still taking Trae Young over Steph Curry, but yeah, Curry mid to late second round. I'm all for that. LeBron, I'm not even touching until the 10th round, even if then. I don't think LeBron plays a full season, and I think Curry will be competitive for most of the season.
All right. Thank you, everyone, for your questions in the chat. And without further ado, it's time for the What Was That stat lines of the week. Kirien, you are up first.
All right. My guy, Benedict Mathurin, proving me right already in the preseason. So I'm going to take a victory lap before anyone can come at me when the regular season starts. Benedict Mathurin, 31 points, 11 of 12 from the field, 4 of 4 from 3, 5 of 5 from the free throw line. Incredible performance from Mathurin. Pretty similar to what he did in Game 7 against the Oklahoma City Thunder when Tyrese got injured. Mathurin couldn't miss. And what I loved about this, he was playing within the offense. It wasn't like this guy, hit a couple of shots and then was like, I'm on fire, I'm going to start chucking, and then just couldn't miss. He was playing within the Carlisle system. Like I've said in previous shows, that system's going to have to change without Halliburton and Miles Turner. Those are 2 unicorn type of players that have very unique skill sets that can't just be replicated by, bringing in the aggregate, playing money ball. They're going to have to adjust. Mathurin is going to be the guy that they're going to have to funnel through. If Carlisle trusts Mathurin and Mathurin trusts Carlisle to put him in good spots, this could be, the sky is the limit for Mathurin this season. And this performance was evident of that.
We love ourselves some Benedict Mathurin. I love myself some Ryan Kalkbrenner. And in the Hornets' last preseason game, he started. He had 14 points, 10 rebounds, a block. He was 7 for 7 from the field. He played 25 minutes. Moussa Diabate played 12. Mason Plumlee played 11. Get those guys out of there. It wasn't an easy matchup either. He played the Mavericks, so Anthony Davis and Derek Lively played in that game. Talked about him before. His ADP is 144 on Yahoo. It's 215 on Fantrax. Ryan Kalkbrenner, I talked about that 30 deep league. I took him in the 30 deep league. I'm taking him in as many leagues as I can. I wouldn't be surprised if he's the starter on opening night. Even if he's not, I think he's the starter by November. Ryan Kalkbrenner. What was that stat line of the week? We love it, Ryan Kalkbrenner.
Well, it shouldn't even be what was that, because he's going to be doing this every day come the regular season.
Yeah, this is that. How about that? Yeah. This is that stat line of the week.
Yeah, I've said it plenty of times already this preseason. I'm very high on the Hornets. I think this is the year where LaMelo can take advantage of a weakened Eastern Conference and finally get into the playoffs. I think Kalkbrenner spreads the floor. That could be amazing for guys like LaMelo, Brandon Miller, Concanipple. Absolutely. I'm all in on Kalkbrenner too. Can I just answer this one question quick before we get out of here, Mike?
Yeah, LaMelo. Look at this. He
heard
us
LaMelo.
talking about Kalkbrenner, and he came
Welcome
right
to the
in.
chat.
Yeah. We love Kalkbrenner, LaMelo.
Would you draft Cooper Flag over players like LeBron, Steph, and KD in a keeper league? Yes, absolutely. Yes. Obviously you gotta anticipate being in this keeper league for 5+ years. But yeah, I in my keeper rankings, I have Cooper Flag as a top 5 guy. My dynasty rankings, I have Steph in like the 30s, and then I have KD and LeBron like around like 50s. Actually I have LeBron like 75 after his recent injury and potential retirement concerns. But yeah, Cooper Flag way higher in a keeper league. Obviously, LaMelo, if you're like, I'm only going to do this keeper league and win it in the next 3 years, and then I'm going to leave, then maybe you don't want to go Cooper Flag. But yes, draft Cooper Flag in a keeper league and then have him for the next 20 years. That sounds like a lot of fun.
And with that, that is the end of today's RotoWire Fantasy Basketball Podcast, brought to you by DraftKings Pick 6. Don't forget, you can use promo code YouTube15 to get 15% off any subscription at RotoWire.com. The next time we talk to you, we will have live basketball games to discuss, with the season starting next Tuesday. So until then, good luck with all your last-minute drafts, and may all your players stay healthy leading up to opening night.